I turned my Etsy shop into a multi-million dollar business. I did that over the course of the past 8 or 9 years now, and I wanted to talk about exactly how I got here, every step of my journey. I originally started selling my artwork on Etsy on my 18th birthday. I literally woke up in the morning, was like, it's my birthday, went to the bank, opened a bank account, started an Etsy shop. It was the first day I legally could do all of that on my own without my parents or anything. And I listed my first paintings. I started out all doing hand-painted canvas art, such as this. And I ran my Etsy shop for a couple of years, just hand painting paintings on canvas. I also did like wood, and I did some trays, and then I got a Cricut and started making like water bottles, and then I made stickers, and it all kind of went from there. But from the time that I was 18 to 20-ish, I just ran my Etsy shop on the side while I was going to college. I went to Loyola Chicago for undergrad. I grew up in the Chicago suburbs and then went there for college. I majored in political science and history, and my Etsy shop was really just like a side gig. I did custom orders, I did all kinds of like quotes and different designs people would request, and then some things I thought of on my own, all from my tiny little apartment where I lived with my sister. Little did I know that like 6 years later, I would be kind of on the other side of the country, but still with Melanie, and now she works for me. While I was going to college, I had no intention of doing this full-time whatsoever. It wasn't even on my radar. Like, my Etsy shop was a hobby. And then the summer before my senior year, I did my Etsy shop more full-time. I was making things on my Cricut, customizing ring dishes, still doing paintings all the time. But I really enjoyed just like running the Etsy shop on my own. I just thought it was really fun, the whole process, like the photos, making the listings, making the new products. So I did a ton of custom orders, a ton of ring dishes, a ton of like signs for weddings and things like that, Christmas gifts. It's just interesting now because I know that those things are still floating out there somewhere. And like, I just totally didn't know, and the customers didn't know like where all this was headed. But when I was a junior, right before that, I started selling stickers. So that's when things started really taking off. Actually, it's kind of funny how I got my iPad. So my very first iPad I got through school. I was in a research program where I was doing like a really intensive history project, and we had a $500 research stipend. And we had to use our stipend because otherwise the program thought that like they wouldn't be able to get funding for the next year. And so a lot of people would travel to archives to find documents that they needed to look through for their history projects. My project was all based on an online archive. So I pitched to my program, hey, can I get an iPad so that I can flip through this archive and take notes on my computer more easily? And they were like, sure, we'll get you an iPad. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And it was super helpful for that project, but it also was great because I could get Procreate on my iPad and I used it to design stickers. So in November of 2018, I introduced my very first sticker. And it says, "Women belong in all places where decisions are being made," which is an RBG quote. And that was something that was just like very important to me as someone who's very into gender equality. So I did a bunch of stickers that were kind of similar. They were all like kind of law adjacent and very much focused on gender equality and all of that. And then I just started creating other designs, and I got requests on Etsy, and then people started asking me to sell my stickers wholesale through Etsy. And that was kind of my first taste of that. So I remember I released the very first sticker and got 3 orders that day, which was a weird feeling because I'd never really gotten like more than 1 order in a day. And it was awesome because I was still getting consistent orders, but 3 in a day, I was like, wow, I just put up this sticker and posted on my Instagram and all of that. I was like, wow, this is great. I kept getting more and more orders for it. I introduced new stickers, again, more and more orders. And I just kept thinking, wow, these are really popular. So I made a bunch of sticker designs. And then after I graduated with my master's, I moved to North Carolina to go to law school. And that summer, my only job was my Etsy shop, and I did craft fairs at Sola, which is a local cafe in Raleigh. And that was like my first time really doing any craft fairs that were super like successful, and that was super fun. I got to meet a lot of people who are local, got a lot of Instagram followers from it. I didn't even have an Instagram when I started. I think I started my Instagram on the recommendation of my freshman year roommate, who was in ad PR, and she was like, you should have an Instagram for your art. And I was like, oh, I'm not into that. I don't like social media. So what I did was I had been posting my like canvases on Facebook groups for like colleges. So I was getting like 30, 40 likes on just like a random photo. And I was like, oh, I was like, okay, I guess every time I paint a canvas, I'll just post a photo. So I just posted like one singular still image every time I painted a new canvas. And that was the extent of it. And then stories became a thing, and I was like, oh, it's too much. I don't want to deal with that. But then when I was doing more and more of like my Etsy shop and stuff, I was like, wow, this can be fun. I like connecting with other artists, and I like talking to people, and like customers would find me on Instagram, and just like kind of became this whole thing. So then Instagram became like my go-to place. So at that point, stickers were selling really well at my craft fairs. And every time I introduced a new sticker design, like they sold. And then I realized through all the requests I was getting on Etsy to sell wholesale that I should start a profile on Faire. And Faire is a wholesale platform that I still use to this day that connects retailers who own stores with brands who produce products and design products. So I started adding my stickers on there, and at first I got rejected from Faire because you have to apply. And they basically told me like, we don't have stickers on here. They were trying to be all like handmade, you know, just like very like high quality, like artisan things. That's what Faire was trying to do when it first started. And so they were like, we don't want stickers on our website. That's silly. And then a few months later, I noticed they had let a sticker brand on that does just stickers, and they were a bigger company, and they did a ton of stickers, and they actually licensed one of my designs. And so I came back to Faire and I said, hey, you already have one of my designs on your website. You have this bigger sticker company, so it seems like you're letting people who sell stickers on now. Can I be on Faire? And they said, yeah, sure. So I was, I think, like literally the second sticker brand on Faire. Then from there, it was actually crazy. Like that was my first year of law school at that point. And I remember in January and February of 2020, before the pandemic, I was waking up at like 5 in the morning. I was packing up my Etsy orders, then I was packing up my Faire orders. I put them in envelopes and packages and whatever. I dropped them off in the mailroom of my law school. And then I went to class at like 8 in the morning. And that's what I did every single day for like 2 months. And then the pandemic hit, and it was all over from there. That's when the fun really begins. March of 2020, law school went online. And I honestly was like, phew, I'm tired. I was doing law school, which in and of itself, 1L year is so hard. So I was like, great. So then law school went online and went pass fail. I was like, well, if everything's pass fail, the stakes are lower. I can like de-stress. I can unwind. I mean, it was the pandemic, so everyone was kind of freaking out and trying to figure out what life was about. And I was just so thoroughly distracted. I was pretty much just every day in my apartment. I was painting and drawing and making videos and posting. And then I got on TikTok because it was becoming a huge thing during the pandemic. And I'd actually downloaded it in the fall of 2019. So it was pretty new. And I was like, ooh, what's this? And then I like flipped through a few videos and I was like, oh my God, this is so addicting. I don't have time for this. And then I was like, all right, I'll dabble in it. During the pandemic, I started posting and it was really fun. I was doing just like DIY projects that I was like painting and whatever else. The first thing that went really viral was me painting black floral. It just went crazy. Like I think I got like 600,000 views and I was like floored, flabbergasted. And I was like, wow, this has a lot of potential. I sold so many art prints of that design. The canvas sold immediately. So I started doing more of that. It wasn't a repeating pattern at the time. I didn't really do a ton of like patterns. It was more paintings still. And I was doing that all summer. Stickers were selling like crazy. I started posting about like my business journey and the fact that I was in law school. That started kind of catching on. And then by the end of that summer of 2020, I was thinking this could be a full-time job. I was also at a crossroads in my path in law school. I had a really great internship that summer. I was doing something I was like super interested in. It was all about the First Amendment. And I was still thinking like, I love this. I'm super interested, but I love doing my art and doing social media for it more. And I was deciding, do I want to pursue a job in big law, which is going to work for like a giant law firm in DC or New York? I was thinking, do I want to do that? I could pay off my loans so much faster because I was living on federal loans. Or do I want to go do something that I'm super passionate about, more kind of like my internship? It's just this whole thing. So I was trying to game out like, how am I going to pay off my loans? How am I going to be happy with my job? Like, what am I going to do? And then I realized I could just do this little art gig full time. What if I did that? So I was trying to figure out how to make that work like financially, but it became clearer and clearer to me that it might be possible to actually match the income I would be making in big law through my artwork if I played my cards right. So I buckled down and I was like, I think I'm gonna do this full time and I'm gonna make it work. And you know, when you have like, what would it be, like 6-figure debt, it's a pretty good motivator to get organized and figure your life out. So I was working super hard. Law school was still online. I was going hard at law school, going hard at my business. I wasn't ready to be like, I'm dropping out, because that would be so drastic. I had spent my whole life preparing to go to law school. I spent 2 years trying to get in. It's just a lot, like, to give up, you know, drop of a hat. So that wasn't an option. And it was online, so it wasn't unmanageable to do my business and law school at the same time. I was sitting at the same desk where I packed orders. I would literally like finish class, I would rewatch the lecture, and I would pack orders at the same time. That's pretty much like how I spent all of the pandemic. By like December of 2020, it became apparent to me that there was no more room in my apartment. I started selling notebooks, I started selling planners. And I was on the second floor. There was a package room. I had to go drag my like 50-pound packages. I was living by myself. My 50-pound packages from the package locker room up my, like, into my car, drive around my complex, come up the stairs, put it on like a shelf. I had bought like a bookshelf from Home Goods and was like, this will work for storing all my product. And then my stickers were under my bed. They were in my closet. It was everywhere. And then I would package up my orders. I would leave them outside my door, and my USPS man was super nice, would come up my stairs and grab all my stuff every day. And I was like, this is not sustainable. I need an office space. And I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. Like, I didn't really think twice. I was like, let's just do it. I signed a 2-year lease for my office. It's like 1,000 square feet. And I was like, I also need an employee. My mom had helped me by packing my wholesale orders. So I literally got all of my sticker designs. I took like 1 pack of each, 2 packs of each. I drove them to Chicago at some point during the pandemic. I don't even remember. It must have been the summer of 2020. I set up in my childhood bedroom an office to pack sticker orders. And all of my wholesale orders that had stickers in them shipped from there. And we had like this 2-location thing. Then I'd order more stickers for her. I'd order more stickers for me. But I needed more help than that. It was becoming very obvious. Like, I wasn't able to keep up with orders on my own. So I got the office, and then I hired part-time employees like right away. And that's when my first notebook TikTok went viral. That was crazy and exhausting and wild. And it just all went from there. It was like I introduced notebooks, then I introduced planners. The first round of planners were completely like the worst misprints I've ever had. I had to get all of those replaced, but then the TikTok about it went viral, and then there was just all of this stuff going on. It was just wild. And then I got engaged. And then I realized I was growing out of that office space sooner than I had anticipated. And so I started looking for a new office space. And then by this time I was back in law school in person for my 3rd year. And wow, I just can't even believe how much stuff I was doing at that point. I was like planning my wedding, going to law school, running my business that was growing like 100% year over year, even more than that. I think from 2020 to 2021, it grew 18 times. And then from 2021 to 2022, it grew 3 or 4 times over. So it was a lot. And then by the spring of 2022, when I was getting ready to graduate from law school, I was on the Today Show.
This morning in our series, She Made It, two entrepreneurs whose businesses are blooming. Our Today Lifestyle and Commerce contributor, Jill Martin, is here to tell us more. Good morning, Jill.
Good morning.
Jill.
Over the past 7 years, 24-year-old Elise Burns has been working hard on her...
Which was an amazing opportunity. And that was all just kind of out of nowhere. It was a super crazy story. I have a whole YouTube video about it from way back, like explaining how that whole process happened. And the day that the Today Show clip aired was also my last day of law school, where I took my last final. And then I graduated from law school, moved into this office from the old office. Then we opened Mill and Meadow a few months later. All the while, all kinds of crazy viral TikToks and grab bags and you name it, hiring 6 new employees in one summer. Wow. And then, yeah, last year I got married and that's pretty much it. Now I'm just chilling. But for the past 8 years, it has been an absolutely insane whirlwind journey that it's just mind-blowing for me to reflect on. But has been full of a lot of lessons and mistakes and successes and all of that stuff. But I would love to get into more my big takeaways and tips of what I've learned over the past 8 years, kind of taking my business from a small little Etsy shop to literally a multi-million-dollar business. So I will have all of that in part 2. Stay tuned. Don't forget to if you have any questions or comments, let me know, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss part 2.